All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about Landstar versus Mercer. And years ago when I was first starting driving, I knew I was going to go to one of those. I was leaning toward Landstar the whole time, and I ended up going to Landstar first. And now I'm over at Mercer. So what I'm going to give you is my personal opinion. And I know there are guys working at Landstar who are going to say Landstar is the best, and guys who are working at Mercer who are going to say Mercer is the best. And I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm ready for all those comments. But this is my opinion, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion here. So let's start off with at the very beginning. You're trying to get signed on. You don't know anything about either company, so let's start at the beginning. Getting on with Landstar is one of the worst companies to try to get on with. They hire a third party to do all your paperwork and stuff, and you're going to spend at least 3 weeks waiting on approval. And I'm still not exactly sure the way it worked. It was just such a pain to try to get information about it. It took me 3 weeks, and during that time, you work with a recruiter, and I tried to get certain information out of them, and during that 3 weeks, all I really got was, yeah, we're still waiting on approval from Landstar for this and that. And so after the 3 weeks, they said, okay, you're approved, but that really wasn't the end of it. I still had to do jump through a few hoops and take care of little odds and ends. And that's really not what you want to go through. If you're changing companies, you don't want to, have to think about leaving one company and not sure if you're, when you're going to start with the other company to, start earning that paycheck. So Landstar, at least 3 weeks for the approval process. And then, you're going to start jumping through hoops, drug tests, and whatever else they want you to do. So it's a real pain. The screening process there takes a while. Mercer, it took 2 days. I put in my application. I got a call that day. The next day, I asked them when I can be in an orientation, and I was in orientation the next week. So I really only, I'd already given my 2 week notice to my previous job, and I really only had to miss a few days of work, just enough to drive to Mercer in Kentucky and do the orientation. There never really were any mysteries with Mercer. I knew where I stood the whole time. The only, I say the only stressful part is their truck inspection. They really do a thorough truck inspection. When you bring that truck over there, they're going to go over it inch by inch, and every little thing that's wrong with it is you gotta fix it right there and then. But it's usually not a big deal. And yeah, that was the only stressful moments with Mercer, because up until the minute you pick up that first job, you really don't, you're kind of in limbo. You don't know that if you're going to get hung up on something. So as far as the orientation process and the hiring on, the hiring on process, Mercer is definitely hands above, streamlined it and got it much better than Landstar. Now the orientation process. I went through orientation with Landstar several years ago, and it was your basic orientation, watching a bunch of safety videos, signing paperwork, getting a Qualcomm installed. Nothing out of the ordinary. Now, when I went through orientation with Mercer, it was, completely different because of the COVID-19 business, but it was basically the same with the exception of the truck inspection. Now, we can move on to that part. So the truck inspection. With Landstar, you take your truck before you show up to orientation, and you take it to one of their approved facilities and get an inspection, and you pay for that inspection. Then after that, once you're hired on with Landstar, they'll pay for every inspection after that. So, and it is quarterly inspection, and you have to do it at their specific sites, and it's a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. Mercer, like I said, you do your first inspection here at Mercer at Louisville, and then you have to bring it in once a year, I think it is, to their facility and let them inspect it. And then the other inspections you can get any of their approved facilities. So not a big deal. So definitely the about the same. Nothing too difficult about those things. So you've got your hired on, you've got your truck inspected, you're going through orientation, and you're done, and you're needing a trailer. So Landstar, my experience, and a lot of the people I've talked to went through the same thing. They had no trailers at the facility where I was at, and they gave me a choice of driving to several different locations, and I had to drive about little over 100 miles to get my trailer, a flatbed trailer. And when I got there, it had been stored in the back of some storage facility, and it was covered in ice and snow, and I had to, go through the process of getting all that off. And not really a big deal. They paid me for the mileage to go get the trailer, but as far as a Mercer's, it was the trailers. There was probably 6 or 7 trailers right across the street at the Mercer facility, and I had my pick. I could go over there and pick any one of them I wanted. That's flatbed or step deck, and so all the trailers were there. Didn't have to go anywhere. I could inspect them right there, and really easy. The van guys, all the people in my class at Mercer, that were driving van, they got their vans too. So didn't have to deadhead anywhere or anything. They could pick the ones they wanted. So definitely Mercer had the upper hand on that. So now you're hired on, orientation, got your trailer, and now you're gonna look for a load. So that brings up the most important thing to everybody, is the load board. And so I'll start off with Mercer's load board first, and there's a reason for that. Mercer's load board is real simple. You type in where you're at, what distance you're willing to deadhead. It has some other parameters like the minimum cents per mile, the weight max, and what you're hauling, what you want to haul with. So you type in whatever your limitations are, and you pull up. Let's say you pull up some loads. On Mercer's load board, there are 2 sections to their load board when load boards pop up. There's a blue section. Loads are listed and highlighted in blue, and then below that they're not highlighted at all. And supposedly with that Mercer's load board, those ones in blue are direct customers, so they won't have to call and verify and then call you back and all that stuff. And then the other ones, they may have to verify that they're actually there. And so that's it. It's very simple load board. There's nothing else to it. When the loads come up, they have your dispatcher's number, they have the agent's number, and sometimes they have addresses to both where you're picking up and where you're delivering. They have the dates and all the basic information. Simple load board, nothing special. Now let's talk about Landstar's load board. Their load board is much better. You can put in all the same information, see basically the same information as Mercer's board. But you can also see what's coming back from back hauls. You can set up if you have a preference on whether you want agents to call you. You can set a preference on that. They can call you or they can't. If you're sitting at home and you don't want to get calls from agents about taking loads, you can disable it. You can set up alerts if a certain load comes up, in the parameters that you're looking for. Boom, you'll get a call as soon as it hits that load board that load's available, and you can make a call on it. And lots of other little things on that thing that Landstar put a lot of time into, and just got it down pat. Their load board is much better than Mercer's load board. Along with the load board, I guess the big thing is the types of loads that are available. And I'll start with Mercer again. Their load board is fairly simple, straightforward. They, like I've said before, a lot of their freight is just the basic freight that these mega carriers have. That you'll see the same stuff they have, and the rates aren't that great. They don't do hazmat. Every once in a while you'll see something with hazmat on it, but it's like a couple of buckets going with some roofing material somewhere. So all those, hazmat pays very good, and Mercer does none of it. And like I said, a lot of their loads are just your basic building material. Now I'm talking flatbed here. Your basic building material, wood, metal, coils. The rates that I've seen on Mercer's load board, they've been average, nothing special. And that, more than anything, that's probably due to the economy, nothing to do with Mercer. But I compare rates and loads all the time using the DAT load board. I have a subscription to that. And Mercer's loads don't pay as much as the average on DAT. So for whatever reason, the rates for Mercer are down. And let's see, what else about that? They just don't have the quality of freight that I saw with Landstar. So let's move on to Landstar's load board. Anything and everything is on there. You can do hot shot, reefer, van, everything you can think of is going to be on Landstar's load board. There's much more of a selection on Landstar's load board than there is at Mercer. You'll see some of the same, basic building material type stuff for flatbed, but you'll see a lot more. A lot of hazmat. Hazmat pays good. Easy loads. You don't see, like I said, you don't see that with Mercer. And just more kind of irregular freight to carry instead of the mega carrier stuff. So, and in that same vein, we'll talk about how you get the loads, because, and I'll start off with Landstar. In saying that they have more of a selection, they do, and lots of times one of the drawbacks to Landstar's load board is you will never see some of the good loads, because if somebody's made a good relationship with an agent and they prove reliable, that agent's and they mutually want to work with each other, they can do that, and that agent doesn't have to put anything on the load board, doesn't have to call anybody else, doesn't have to offer it to anybody else, and one person can stay on the good stuff forever. Now Mercer has a policy which is first in, first out, and they have this policy because they want you to think that everything is fair with this policy, and it doesn't work, because drivers and agents are still working with each other. They get around it whenever they can, and as far as the good freight, it's still Landstar and Mercer are exactly the same. You know, once an agent gets somebody they want to work with and they have a regular load to carry, they'll just keep that same driver, just the same as Landstar does, even though Mercer has this first in, first out policy. Overall, Landstar's load board is much better than Mercer's. Now, can you make the same amount of money at Mercer that you can with Landstar? Sure you can, you know, if you know, just like anything else, if you're willing to hustle and, you know, if you're always, you know, checking that load board every second to find the best loads and going with them. But, you know, it's just like everything else. You got to hustle to make the money. Landstar is probably a little bit easier to make the big money just because of the different types of loads over there and the accounts you can get on and all that stuff. So load boards, definitely Landstar's is much better. Oh, and on top of that, I'll say this about Landstar. When you get in good with agents, and you know, I did this several times while I was over there. You know, there wasn't really anything on the load board that I wanted, so I called my favorite agent. I said, hey, can you check other load boards and find me loads? They can go out on other load boards, whichever one they choose, and broker you a load from somewhere else. It doesn't have to be on Landstar's load board, but you just have to get one of their agents to do it for you. So another plus for Landstar there on the load board. So I need to back up because I forgot a little bit. Let's talk about the trailers. You know, at Landstar, if you do not have a trailer and you need one from Landstar, you're going to be renting one if you're doing flatbed or step deck. I can't remember exactly what the rates were, but I think the flatbeds were around $180 a week, and the step decks were close to $200. I can't remember exactly what that was. So you're going to be renting, and then they take care of the maintenance. At Mercer, you will actually be leasing to own your trailer. There isn't a down payment or anything like that. And the rates are actually, from what I remember, the flatbed rates are actually a little less expensive than the rental rates were at Landstar. But there again, you're good and you're bad. You know, with Mercer, you're going to be paying for your own repairs. So it's you know, it's a push on that one. So as far as support, customer service, and all that, you know, that all comes down to, you know, who's on the other end of the phone and what they're going through that day, I guess, you know, and they're both basically the same. You know, you can call in and get a butthole one day, and then the next day you get the nicest person you've ever met on the phone. So I really can't say that they're any different as far as customer service and all that. But there is one big difference in the two, and that's how you get paid. Now at Landstar, it's a little odd the way they do it. You know, they have a certain, you know, if you turn all your receipts in by a certain day, then you'll get paid this following day. Sometimes it works like that. Sometimes they cut it off a little early. Sometimes they delay it by a day. So you don't know exactly when, you know, the loads you've already done are going to fall, you know, and when you'll get paid for them. But you can get advances on those loads. As soon as you're dispatched on a load, you can call or do it on the app and get your advance for that load. Now at Mercer, man, their way they pay you is exceptional. Now, when you dispatch on a load at Mercer, you can't get the advance yet. You have to go pick it up and do your departure. You have to be loaded and departed, and then you can get your advance, and it goes into your account immediately. And once you're done with that load and you send in your bill of lading, you get paid for that load right away. Normally, I'll send in my paperwork and I'm paid usually about 30 minutes later. And I love that. I don't like, you know, Landstar's process of, you know, getting paid once a week. and maybe this load's going on there, maybe it's not, and, that type of thing. So definitely Mercer has the hand up on that one. What else can there, as far as it, I really don't want to go into this because I don't know much about it, but as far as building a fleet, without going into much detail, I would say that Mercer is going to make that a whole lot easier than Landstar would. Just the number one reason is the ability to get your drivers on within a week, and in your truck within 2 weeks. With Landstar, you're going to be waiting a month, at least a month, or more, depending on what the driver's got to clear up. So the fleet, I think Mercer hands down has the the better possibilities for building a fleet. As far as the type of truck they allow, they're both the same. You can have just about anything, and as long as it's passes their inspection, you're good to go. All right, let's talk about discounts. They're both about the same. Oil changes and tires and work. From what I've seen, they're relatively the same. Fuel discounts. Sometimes that's hard to nail down because you're not working at both places at the same time. But from what I've seen, Landstar gets some really, really good fuel discounts, much better than what I've seen here at Mercer. Especially over at TA and Petro, Landstar really kills it. Sometimes you get 60, 70 cents off over there. So, and also their app, is the ComData app. When you're at Landstar, you get ComData cards, and the ComData app that goes with that is really good. And then here at Mercer, you get EFS cards, and they have some apps too that but they're really hard to navigate. And when you're trying to find the best prices on fuel, the thing's written so small you can't hardly see it. It's just a pain in the butt. So fuel discounts, I'm gonna have to give that to Landstar. Now, I guess overall, they kind of even out as far as their good points and bad points. But if you don't care about how you're getting paid, and if you don't care about owning a trailer, you don't mind renting a trailer, then I would probably give the upper hand to Mercer. Also, if I would give the upper hand to Landstar, sorry. But if you want an easier company to work with, I believe Mercer's the one to go with. And the reason, you may ask, why are you with Mercer if you like Landstar so much? And I'll say it again, they're both about the same. But the reason I'm with Mercer now is I thought I was going to, when I left Landstar, I thought I was taking a job with a company that, they promised me all kinds of things, that I'd be home. And I won't go into the nightmare of a company this was, but when I was leaving that company, I was going to go back to Landstar. And Landstar calls this company up, and they said, oh, we're not going to give you any information. So Landstar couldn't hire me on because they wouldn't release any of my information. And when I asked that company why, they wouldn't give me an answer. All they said was, oh, we don't have to release it until 30 days after you quit. Now, I've never done anything wrong at that company, never been late, never refused anything, never done anything. I was a model employee. But that's the kind of people they were over there. So I wasn't going to quit there, wait 30 days for them to release my information, and then go to Landstar. So I called Mercer, and Mercer said, you know what, obviously you have a good driving record or they wouldn't have you. We'll take you. And like I said, within a week I was in orientation. So process, they made it very easy and pain-free. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, I'm sure there is something I forgot, but if there's anything I can answer, I'll be glad to answer your questions for you.